Good Friday afternoon to you. 4 o'clock time for Sports for CLE. Thanks for joining us. The Browns have made it official. No Deshaun Watson for Sunday's game against the 49ers. Joel Bitonio will also be sitting for this one. David Njoku is questionable, so that means P.J. Walker will get the start at quarterback. Michael Dunn will be Joel Bitonio's replacement on the offensive line. Let's welcome in Brad Ward, Orange and Brown report, as well as the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. And Brad, there's like conspiracy theories going on and all kinds of stuff with Deshaun Watson. I'm not buying it. Are you buying any of that?
I am not, Dave. I am not subscribing to those theories. I feel that I understand why people have gone there because the messaging from Stefanski and Barry has not been great on this from day one. But I got to say that I think this is just a miscalculation of what the timeline would be on this injury, right? What the recovery timeline would be, what the actual injury was initially, maybe was they thought was going to be a quicker heal than it actually is. I don't think there's anything nefarious going on here, or they're hiding things or anything like that, as a lot of that stuff is floating out there. And I understand fans are frustrated, right? You want to see this guy play, but I don't think that's what's happening here.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. The other one, people are questioning his toughness, which the guy played with a collapsed lung when he was with the Texans. It's different when it's your throwing shoulder, and that's the way he makes his living. And anytime and I know it's not a rotator cuff tear, or at least it hasn't come out, but rotator cuff and throwing, that's a concern.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to the same doctor through this whole thing. He's a guy that works with some NFL players. And basically, I mean, if your rotator cuff is he said the same thing as what Mary Kay reported, like 2 to 6 weeks, right? And anything that you do in front of your body, right, with your arm, so follow through, any of that is going to be restricted motion-wise. So I don't think, like, when people say toughness, I think they think like, okay, the NFL, just shoot them up, send them out there, right? Pain tolerance type stuff. And I don't think that's what this is. I think if it was a pain tolerance issue, he would be playing, Dave. And I think it's more of probably a restrictive or a motion restriction, right, that we're dealing with here more than just, fighting through the pain. And I think that's what people think it is, and they're like drawing that conclusion or assuming that's what it is, and that he's not willing to play through that pain. I think we're dealing with a guy that probably isn't effective as a thrower yet, and so why would you want to put him out there in that situation?
Yeah, and again, I was a pitcher in college. If your rotator cuff, there are some things where it's like, I feel like I'm throwing the ball hard and it's just not going anywhere. That's kind of what I think he's going through. So P.J. Walker will get the start. He started 5 games for the Carolina Panthers a season ago. He was asked about those 5 starts and how comfortable he is now in the Browns offense.
Just took this week, to be honest, just going out there and getting the reps and being able to just hear myself talk about the cadences and call the plays and all those different things. It was easy for me. Last year was huge, just me getting the opportunity to go out there and play 5 games and get those games under my belt. It felt good just to see guys rally around me and just to feel the energy and the excitement of the guys around me. I don't go out there and play for myself. I go out there and play for every one of these guys in this room and in this building. That's all that matters at the end of the day. Taking care of business on Sunday and going out there and playing as a team.
So, Brad, he has won NFL games as a starter. He has played in several. Tough task, but they clearly felt like this gives them a better chance than what they saw with Dorian Thompson-Robinson.
Yeah, I think that's a no-brainer. Really do. With what we saw from Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and the fact that he has started in 1 games in the NFL gives him a huge leg up in, especially this type of a game where you're facing a potentially best team in the NFL, right? And so I think that, he has the right attitude. He's a pro, right? He understands it. He's been through the process multiple times of game week, game day, preparation. You know, it's a little different for Dorian Thompson Robinson to have, Bosa running at you full speed than it is for PJ Walker, right? Who's been on the field before. And I think that's kind of like what they're looking for. And I think he probably does give him a better chance to compete.
Yeah, and again, he's won games. He's faced the 49ers. He was with the Panthers. Ironically, Steve Wilks, who is the 49ers defensive coordinator, was the head coach of the Panthers last season, the interim head coach, albeit, when Walker was making those starts. So Wilks is a guy who knows more than most what Walker brings to the table.
I think he's very capable of running that offense. He makes good decisions. He's good with the ball. He can win with his legs. A lot of what Deshaun can do. So when people say, are they going to dummy down the offense? I don't think so. I think he's more than capable of running that offense.
Now, yes, I agree with that. The concern is he's turned the ball over quite a bit in those starts. So he's got to take better. That's the one thing he has to do, take care of the football.
Yeah, I mean, that's what this team has to do, right? Like, this team's detriment has been the turnover, right? And if you want to, find a path to winning this game on Sunday, you're going to have to take it away, and you can't turn it over at all. So he's going to have to protect the ball. It'll be very intriguing to see what iteration of this offense we see run with PJ Walker. But I do think, as Wilkes says, he makes a good point. You can create, last week I got on Stefanski for not having the secondary or plan B for DTR. I understand that this is a little bit different, right? So if they actually thought Deshaun was going to play earlier in the week, you could create a game plan and pivot within that game plan, not necessarily have to make it an entirely separate game plan for a guy like PJ Walker, who really does have the ability to make a difference with his legs and things like that. So I think that, the element of him running the football actually really does intrigue me in this game.
Yeah, and along those lines, I think we might see more of what we expected to see from Watson. What RPO, running out of the gun? What do you expect Kevin Stefanski to lean into with PJ Walker as a starting quarterback?
Yeah, it's ironic, right? Like, that we've been waiting for this offense, but it's almost like, okay, so you're going against, Shanahan, who is the, basically like the father of, or the son of this, wide zone scheme that Kubiak and Stefanski run. So I doubt that they want to go out there and run the same stuff that he knows like the back of his hand against him, right? So you would think that they would lean into the shotgun, the inside zone, the RPO stuff, a lot of motion, what we've been waiting to see with Deshaun Watson, which is why it's so ironic that we may see that with PJ Walker this week. I would think that would be the best game plan. So I'm hoping maybe this is a start of the entire offense leaning that way.
All right, before we go to break, let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason for the first time today.
Hi, this is Rico. With Watson being sidelined again, it's time for Stefanski to prove he is a good coach. he's had enough time to get another QB ready to play versus the 49ers. We've seen throughout the league that teams can still win even if you have your QB2 starting. Obviously, this is a tough task even if Watson was playing, but Stefanski must show that he can lead his team to victory without his franchise quarterback. With that said, losing to this game wouldn't be a death blow. 2-3 on the year, and then some favorable matchups incoming. I mean, losing to an NFC team wouldn't hurt the Browns for AFC tiebreakers. I'm going to hope for the best and that the Browns show up and compete with the 49ers at the very least. Thanks. Let's go Browns.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails, but I think that's a valid point. You want to see the game plan play to some of the guys that are on the field to play to their strengths.
Yeah, absolutely. Caller has the right idea, the right attitude for this game, right? Like, you want to play to the guys on the field strengths. Absolutely. You want to play complementary football to give this defense a chance to make a difference, right? This is they present a different challenge for the Niners. The Niners have only been trailing this season for 1 minute and 45 seconds, Dave, in all 5 games. That's a remarkable stat. They are very dominant. They haven't been challenged. I asked the question to a guy this week that covers the Niners, is there any point where you felt like an outcome was in doubt? And he was like, not really. Maybe the first half of the Giants game was a little, the biggest challenge they've had, but really no outcome has been in doubt for this Niners team. They have dominated from front to finish in every game this year. So, and they're only 5 games in. So, I understand that, like last night on Thursday Night Football, they're talking about them running the table. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. They're a very good team, but they still have some weaknesses. There's some places that, the right side of that offensive line, there's a couple members of the secondary that can be picked on. So, we'll see what kind of game plan they come out with. But, losing this game isn't detrimental to the Browns, as the caller said.
Brad Ward from the Orange and Brown Report and the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast tonight. I'm going to step aside, take a quick time out. Back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Talk a little bit more specifically about this Browns-49ers matchup. Sports4CLE, I'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hello, this is Big Frost from Toledo, Ohio. 50-year Cleveland Browns fan. We got the San Francisco 49ers coming up this week, and we are going to beat the 49ers. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, and I hope everyone else will just think positive about our team. If Watson played or not, we have professional athletes who are going to go out there and make it happen. Nobody is giving us a chance. Nobody. Not even our so-called diehard fans. But I'm that one fan who's saying it loud and clear. The 49ers will go down Sunday. Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, they will lead the way. Go Browns. Woo, woo.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Brad, no team is unbeatable. We talked about it, but to his point, the defense is going to have to lead the way.
Yeah, you've got to get, and the great neutralizer here is the turnover, right? Like and they're due some regression on turnovers, right? Like this defense has played really well, but they haven't turned it over a ton, so they are due a little turnover regression. This would be the game to get it, right? Because that's the great equalizer in a game like this. Hey, the forecast, the weather, that would help a little bit too, right? The rain, some wind, all of that stuff could play into the Browns' hands. But you need to get as we mentioned, you're going to need a clean game from your quarterback and your offense, and you're going to need an exemplary performance from this defense, who we know is capable of it. But it's not impossible, right? Like there is a path to a win here. It just has to kind of bounce right for the Browns.
So Brock Purdy, second-year quarterback for the 49ers, has played really well. He talked about the Browns' defense and how going against his defense in practice has helped him get ready for what he's going to see Sunday.
A really good challenge for us. The front, they do a great job with, I feel like, just getting after the offensive line and pushing them back and getting up on the quarterback's toes. Sort of pushing the quarterback off balance with just being in rhythm for a play. So they do a great job with that. And yeah, you can see the similarities with how, Coach Chris Sarek coaches the guys up here. The stunts and the things, just the drive, the get off on the D-line, man, it's crucial. And so, at camp, we obviously go against that every single day, or we did go against that every day, and it was a great challenge for us. So when we watched the film, it's like, all right, yeah, we got another great challenge in front of us this week with these guys. So they're, I think, one of the best, in the league, and a really talented group. So excited to go against them.
Brad, he's played really well, but they haven't been pushed, and I want to see if the defense can speed him up.
Yeah, he is. There's this debate with Purdy, right? Like, is he a product of the Shanahan system? Is he more than that? I think he's more than that, Dave. He's made some, at least this year, he's made some really, really good throws, thrown some people open. Now, does he have elite weapons around him and one of the best, play creators in football and play callers in football? Yes, he has all of those things at his side. But this Browns defense can be the best challenge that they faced all year. And to your point, really speed him up. I mentioned the right side of that offense. This offensive line is not great outside of Trent Williams, right? You can get pressure on them. He mentions the two defenses and compares them. The one thing that, they're kind of 1 and 2 in a lot of major metrics around the NFL defensively. The one where the Browns stand out is the sack percentage, right? So they're at like 10.2, second in the NFL percent. And the Niners are like 25th or something at 6.1% sack percentage. So that is the difference, is that the Browns have gotten home and they have created more pressure than the Niners have with their front. So if they can do that to Purdy, he'll throw it away. He'll throw it to the other team. He's a young quarterback. He's been excellent so far, but he's also been in a lot of very, very favorable situations, Dave.
Yeah, you mentioned that they haven't trailed. So the other thing that the Browns have that not many teams can say, they have the ability to cover. Kyle Shanahan talked about that Browns secondary.
Very good. I mean, when you have the D-line they have, the downhill linebackers, you better have some good corners, and they have very good ones. They play a lot of man-to-man coverage, so mix in some zone. But when you play that much man-to-man and you're also the number one pass defense in the league, you got to have some good corners.
And that helps, that figures into the matchup. You better have somebody that can handle McCaffrey. You better have somebody that can handle Kittle. You better have Ayuk, and the Browns do have those pieces. Doesn't mean that they're going to get it done, but they are more equipped to handle an offense like this than most teams.
They are. They have the talent to match up with some of these weapons, right? And not many people in the NFL can say that, right? So corner for corner linebackers like JOK on a guy like Kittle, or if you're bringing a safety up to cover him, or however they, go about doing this. I listen to Jim. It's so funny every week, if you're down or feeling bad about the Browns or whatever, just listen to Jim Schwartz's press conference, because he'll feel better afterwards, because he talks with such confidence. Like, you just feel like, oh, he's got a handle on things, right? And once again, you listen to him and he feels confident, and he wants to take the opportunity to show off his defense. So, they do have the talent to compete with them. So, it will, it's a real test for both teams, right? And watching the Niners offense versus the Browns defense, regardless of the outcome of the game, will be telling on a highest level, right? On because these are two of the best units in the NFL.
All right, before I let you go, what's the blueprint for the Browns to win, given that it's going to be P.J. Walker? We know that.
Rain, wind. No, I'm just kidding. That would help. But yeah, so it's in the forecast a little bit. So the rain and the wind would help. But, play a clean game. Use P.J. Walker to kind of, I think if you use him with his legs more than anything, maybe that sparks the run game. I would like to see them use Pierre Strong more. I feel like he's a better downhill runner and he has a little burst. So incorporate him in the run game more with the RPO stuff with PJ and let him use his legs to be creative and make some plays, but also be smart. You can't turn it over. Got to play a clean slate on offense, no turnovers. And maybe you get a Myles Garrett strip sack or an interception on the back end that turns the game. Try to hang around and get a late momentum play and steal a win here against a really good football team. That's the blueprint for me, Dave.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way they can fall behind to this team by a couple of scores. You don't want to be chasing the 49ers. That's what's happened with them first 5 weeks that they've played. Brad Ward, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Brad.
You're the best, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Brad Ward, make sure you check him out. Orange and Brown Report, as well as the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Michael Lombardi from the Lombardi Line, former NFL front office executive. Straight ahead on Sports4CLE, we're talking more Browns and 49ers with Michael Lombardi. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Let's welcome in Michael Lombardi. He's host of the Lombardi Line on VSiN. He's also the author of Football Done Right, longtime NFL front office executive. Michael, we appreciate the time. A lot of talk about Deshaun Watson here in Cleveland, as I'm sure you're aware. Missed the game before the bye, and then bye week, he's been ruled out for the 49ers. It appears that injury to the throwing shoulder more serious. As a front office, how do you work through something like this?
Yeah, I think it's really challenging, right? Before the last game, I think there was expectations that the Baltimore game he was going to play. I think he went out to throw before the game, and I think it took a lot of people by surprise that he actually didn't play. But a lot of people didn't know the severity of the injury. And then because he was maybe so close to playing, not playing this week after a bye seems to be a little bit, well, what's going on? But obviously the shoulder's bothering him. He can't drive the football. He can't throw well enough. And I'm sure there's more there in terms of the injury than the Browns want to reveal. And it's concerning because that your backup, Dorian Robinson-Thompson, didn't play well. So now you're bringing in P.J. Walker, who's not really been with your team before, was in the Bears training camp. So you're going to have to rely on your defense, which is good enough to rely on.
When you look at P.J. Walker, it's a guy that's played in the NFL, has started some games. What did you see from him? He started 5-6 games last year. From the Panthers. What did you see from him that makes you think he might be able to do some of the things you need him to do?
Well, he beat Tom Brady last year for the Panthers in Carolina. I mean, he's made some throws. He's got to warm up to the system. And the one thing about the Browns system, it's not going to change that Watson's not playing, is they got to run the football, right? That's who they are. They want to run the ball. They need to run the football, and their offensive line is the strength of their team. And so what they're going to ask Walker to do is going to be complete, kind of relatively easy throws within the framework of their offense, not turn the ball over, protect the football, and allow their defense to kind of see if they can keep the score close going into the fourth quarter, which clearly they can.
You look at the running game. So Joel Bitonio has been ruled out. So Jack Conklin's out. Posic's banged up. What have you seen from the running game? And I know losing Nick Chubb, that makes it tough.
Yeah.
But what have you seen from the running game that you think maybe they can get something rolling? What's been off with that running game that up until this year has been really good?
Well, I think a lot of continuity. You lose Chubb, right? And then, you start to lose some linemen. You lose Conklin. Although the Jones kid has played really well, now you lose Bitonio. And so you got to have a hard time. I think last week before the bye, when you're playing Baltimore, I think there was an expectation that he was going to play. So you kind of get a sense of a run game around Deshaun. But now when you put Dorian Robinson-Thompson in, now it becomes a little bit of a different game. And so I think with the week off and some preparation and knowing that PJ will be the starter, you got a chance to scheme some run. Look, this is a good front. I'm not going to kid you. This is a really hard front to block. Hargrave's outstanding. He can pressure the quarterback. Plus, he can stop the run. Armstead's big. He's athletic. He's long. The success of the Niners is much like the success of the Browns. They do it with their defensive front. So this will be a huge challenge, but you got to run the ball enough to keep the team honest, to not let those defensive ends get up the field and rush the passer and create turnovers. That's why it's so important to keep this game close. If they get behind in the game early, it's going to be really challenging for the Browns to catch up.
Is P.J. Walker the kind of quarterback that can aid in the run game, similar to a skill set of Deshaun Watson?
I don't know if he's as athletic as Deshaun in terms of making plays, but yes, he'll be able to run around and make some, look, if he can get 2 first downs with his feet, I think that'll be a great achievement for him.
Let's flip the sides. The quarterback for the 49ers, Brock Purdy, second year, 7th round pick, has played really well. Is it possible, do you think, to speed him up, make him uncomfortable?
Yeah, it is. I mean, the Giants did a little bit in their game on Thursday night, week 2 of the season. He almost threw 4 or 5 interceptions in that game, and yet they dropped them. And so you have to look. One thing the Browns have going for him is Jim Schwartz. I think he's 1-9 against Kyle Shanahan. He's held Kyle Shanahan, whether it was a coordinator in Atlanta or as a head coach. He's played this system very well. And why is that? Because the way his defense is set up, it protects it forces you to make plays inside in terms of the run game. Use your power. He doesn't allow the outside zone. He's not going to allow the ball to get in the edges, to get bootlegs and those kind of things that Kyle likes to do. So the matchup, they know what they're up against. The Cleveland defense surely does. And if they can force it into a drop back pass game, which is something that the 49ers really don't have, nor do they want to have, and frankly, they don't need to have because they play from in front against everybody, then all of a sudden the Browns will gain an advantage. Look, when you play San Francisco, you've got to stop the outside zone. You've got to tackle the talent, which is the receivers, because all 5 guys are hard to tackle. And you've got to be able to make them work the ball down the field.
Now, the 49ers have Trent Williams, really good tackle. Are the other parts of that offensive line maybe a little bit more susceptible to what Jim Schwartz likes to do pressure-wise?
Well, I mean, Williams is a good player, but where they get all their success, it's a little bit like Miami. They hide their offensive line through the scheme. So a lot of it is play action. So they don't really run a drop back pass game. Look, I think the right tackle will see a lot of Myles Garrett. The center will see Myles Garrett. They're not going to put Trent Williams up against Myles Garrett because that doesn't really give the Browns an advantage. And so for me, they're going to move them around like Schwartz has done. But this line, you can attack their offensive line. The problem is because they never have to really throw the ball. They're never behind in a game to throw it, so you don't get a chance. Remember the Rams game, it's 17-17 at the half at the Rams game. And then the Niners pulled away and won 30-23. But, that game was a lot closer than the score. They haven't played anybody who's really challenged them, including Dallas. I think this defense will be the best defense they'll play. this defense is better than Dallas's defense.
Is what Jim Schwartz and this defense doing, do you think, sustainable? I mean, I know there were.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, I said this all summer long. I mean, the one thing about Schwartz's defense is you can't run the ball on it. It's really challenging to run the ball. They're really good. They fill their gaps. They have great gap integrity. It's being taught perfectly by him. And you cannot run the football. No one's out of their gaps. They don't give free runs. They don't give up big plays. The corners are outstanding, especially when they're healthy. So it's a hard offense. It's a hard defense to go the long field on. It's the same thing with San Francisco. One of the underlying factors in the San Francisco defensive scheme is their punter. And you say, well, what makes such a big difference about their punter? Well, Mitch Wisnowski, it leads the league in inside the 20 punts, and he does it every single year. So when you're always playing on a long field against a really good defense, you got to string 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plays together in a row to get points. It's hard for a lot of offenses to do that.
Who are some guys that maybe are underappreciated on that defense for Jim Schwartz that you've looked at with the Browns so far this year?
Well, I mean, I think Newsom's underappreciated. I know he got hurt early. The corners are really good. I think Tomlinson's playing well. You know, I think the whole unit, the front seven, is really well. They're well coordinated. They pay attention to detail. They're not a complex defense, but what they do is utilize the skill set of their talent, and they do it really well.
Before I let you go, let's go back to the offense. A guy that the Browns are trying to figure out how to unlock is Elijah Moore. When you look at him, how do you think they utilize him to maximize his skill set?
Well, they're trying to make him into Deebo Samuel, which is a smart thing, right? They're trying to make him a running back. They put him in the backfield sometimes. He's a good slot receiver. He's reliable. He's good with the ball in his hands. They're trying to get the ball in his hands without having to throw it to him. And they started to get some continuity. But once again, you know, your quarterback gets hurt. It's hard to have continuity. You know, it's hard to have that flow going. But I think eventually they will. But they're doing a smart thing with him. They need to get him the football. He can make plays inside the slot or as a runner.
Is he a guy that could actually help out that running game? They're looking for keys to unlock the running game, and we talked about how important that's going to be based on your quarterback being banged up.
Well, he's got to make runs that are in their run offense. Like you can't make a difference in the run game with trick runs. You got to make them. When Deebo Samuel lines up and runs the ball, he runs like he's the tailback. That's what separates the 49er offense. They have a positionless offense. Everybody on their team can play a lot of different roles offensively. So they can substitute without substituting, which makes them very challenging to play. I think if the Browns get to that with Moore, that'll be great.
Michael Lombardi, thanks so much for the time and the insight. Michael Lombardi, you can check him out, host of the Lombardi Line on VSiN. Also has a book out. He is author of Football Done Right. Really good stuff. Thanks so much for your time, Michael. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, Dave.
Michael Lombardi, make sure you check him out. The Lombardi Line, really good stuff on VSiN. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We will welcome in Lance Reisland. Take a look at some video analysis, film breakdown of some things that the Browns can do offensively to get things rolling against the 49ers. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Browns getting ready for that game against the 49ers Sunday, Cleveland Browns Stadium against the 49ers. Their first game out of the bye. Let's welcome in Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Lance, let's take a look at some things the Browns could do to the offense coming out of the bye to kind of get things rolling, if you will.
You know, breaking down the 49ers on the bye week, I got to watch all 5 games, and the thing that kind of stuck in my head was there's a lot of things the Browns can do. You know, Shanahan is an outstanding offensive coordinator, and when I was watching the film, you're looking for, different designs and things like that. He's very simple. What he does is he window dresses stuff very well. The thing that I like the most is that one of my ultimate things that I believe in as an offense coordinator is that it's players over plays. And, if you look at the other night, like Devontae Adams had 2 targets. That's unacceptable. The best players on your team have to touch the ball majority of the time. And that's what you really get out of Shanahan is he has a lot of eye candy, a lot of window dressing, but Deebo Samuel and McCaffrey and Kittle, those are the guys that touch the ball the majority of the time. And that's why they're successful. And I think the Browns moving forward as they, hopefully get Watson healthy and things like that, I think they can learn kind of from what Shanahan's doing in terms of just getting guys touches in space and having your best guys always handle the football.
Let's take a look at some examples of that. So take us through this first clip, what we see here and what you like about it.
Well, here's a classic example. So you're going to get Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel actually lines up in the backfield, and he's going to run a Texas route. And the thing that he does here is that, most of the time these Texas routes are run by running backs. Well, Deebo Samuel gives you that kind of that Elijah Moore kind of feel that you want. So he's actually going to be 4 strong. So he's 4 strong. So you got 3 receivers up top. And as a defense, because they're in man coverage, because he's in the backfield, he's actually 4 strong. If you count outside in 1, 2, 3, 4, he becomes the linebacker's responsibility, which here he is against Vander Esch from the Cowboys. And this is a mismatch. And this is not a complex scheme. They're going to clear with the top 3. They're going to run a Texas route with Deebo Samuel, and they're going to get him matched up on Vander Esch. And once again, this is the players over plays. And this is what I mean by is like finding a matchup you like and getting it to your guy in space, and he's the master of it. He does a great job, and this is one example.
Yeah, and that's something you and I have talked about for the better part of a couple of years, kind of getting the ball in your hands of some playmakers that give you some easy yards. So when we look at this second clip, take us through what you see here and what you like with this one as well.
So this is just the idea of, you get a long distance, you get a long yardage, long distance you need, and just getting the ball to McCaffrey in space. And they do it a bunch of different ways. And I put the screen on here. This actually got called back because of holding. But they do a bunch of different things with McCaffrey in terms of putting him in space, putting him out of the backfield. They line him up in backfield. They use him as window dressing. They use him as a decoy. But primarily, he's the primary guy in their offense. And what he does is he allows everybody else to be successful because he's the guy the defense has to keep their eye on. So here's just a really good play. They get caught in the blitz. Really good call by Shanahan, which tells me, they know down and distance. And he does a great job of not only scheming things, but it's very, very simple. This is just a guard, center, guard screen, and McCaffrey makes a couple guys miss. But again, best players touch the football for the San Francisco 49ers, and that's why they're successful.
And look at how much space he has when he gets that. There's one white jersey and 4 of his teammates to deal with it. So again, kind of getting the ball to people where they can pick up some easy yards, some uncontested yards. The other thing that we know, and we talked about this after the Ravens game, motion has been a problem for the Browns, and that can be something that's a bonus and something that is definitely a strength for an offense.
Well, the thing about the 49ers is their motion is really unique. So he started this sneak motion, or where the slot receiver will motion out to the sideline, which is kind of new this year. But their motion is late and fast. And whether they go in, whether they go out, whether they go across the formation, they put immediate stress on a defense because they go so fast with their motion. So here you're going to get the fullback, who is an outstanding guy. He plays a bunch of different positions. He's a true fullback, but he can do a bunch of things. So if you watch the play down at the bottom, he's going to motion out. And as he motions out, Curse, the strong safety for the Cowboys, is going to move with him. Also, Gilmore, the corner, is also going to move out because he now becomes the number 1 receiver. And by doing that, everybody's in man coverage everybody's in zone coverage except for Curse. Curse runs with the fullback. What that does, it leaves a huge window. Now, a little coaching point is that you're going to see at the top of the screen, McCaffrey's going to leave the backfield to the left. That's going to take the eyes of both top linebackers, and then what you get is you get this huge window. So by simply motioning the fullback to the sideline, they create this huge window, make an easy throw for Purdy. And this is what I think the Browns got to do. They got to make Purdy push the ball downfield, because if he throws the ball under 15 yards, he's outstanding. And Shanahan does a great job of scheming this up where he gets these easy routes. So this is a great scheme. They get what they want. Everybody's in zone except for one guy. They cause a mix-up, and once again, it's because of the late fast motion.
Yeah, and you can see, again, those are easy yards. For an NFL quarterback, there's nobody within 5 yards of him. So, again, those easy yards schemed up by that. Take us through this another play with motion, what you see in this clip.
So what you get here, this is just a simple, they run just a shuffle motion. Another thing that I've seen a bunch this year in the NFL. So if you look at McCaffrey, he's going to go in motion. What that does is that's going to take those two linebackers, both the middle linebacker and the outside linebacker, and they immediately get their eyes on the running back. So again, this is eye candy. So by simply motioning McCaffrey a little bit, he's going to open up that dig route for AU coming on that about 12 to 18 yard dig, 12 to 15 yard dig. And that's all because of simply motioning McCaffrey. Usually he would just run an arrow route there, but by simply adding motion is going to immediately grab the eyes of everybody involved. And you can see both these linebackers go with the width, and it opens Ayuk up on this dig route. So again, nothing fancy here in the scheme. This is an over-under route. You have an over and you have an under, and he picks the over because everybody runs with McCaffrey. So again, scheme and motion really opened this up for the 49ers.
And again, when you motion somebody late in a play, the defense natural reaction is to adjust, which is why so many people do it. When you move somebody around the formation, the defense has to figure out, okay, who's accounting for him because he's in a different spot.
Yeah, and they do a great job of with motion. They do a great job of opening passing lanes. They do a good job of getting more numbers in the run game, so they're going to have more blockers than you. They do a really good job of creating angles for guys so they can block down or block out. So they're really easy angles for guys who maybe are smaller or blocking defensive end. So they do a good job with their motions. There's a purpose to their motion. Some people motion just the motion. There is a direct purpose for Kyle Shanahan's motion, and it's really impressive when you watch on film.
So these last couple of clips, take us through what you like about this and why these are important.
Well, once again, so everything we've talked about is just the idea of how do you run what you run and make the defense not run to it and maybe not understand. So this is just going to be a counter to the left, but what they do, first, they put Deebo Samuel at tailback. So going back to the first point, players over plays. Next, what they do is they're going to run a toss sweep action in the backfield to the right. But in all reality, if you look, the fullback and the thing, they're going to pull up to the left. So it's actually going to be a tight end and a fullback. They're actually going to run a counter back to the left. So he's just with that pitch motion. Shanahan's just trying to get the linebackers in the second level to flow to their left so Deebo Samuel can cut it all the way back to his left. And this is what you get. This is just a counter, and you just add a little bit of toss sweep, a little eye candy, and you get a big run from Deebo Samuel.
And again, this is a staple play that they have, and they kind of put a little bit of a spin on it by motioning the guy a little bit opposite of where they're going to run.
And they just toss, what they do, so they take that counter left, and instead of just a handoff, they're going to toss it to the right. And what that does is that immediately makes those linebackers run. So the eye candy they use is movement, shifts, motions especially. But on this particular play, it's just the idea of we're going to run our counter to the left, but we're going to do it differently than everybody else does it. And that's another thing he does is that he takes his base plays and he just does them differently than everybody else. And so you're not practicing all the time against them, and you're not seeing it all the time. And it just creates these big windows just because he window dresses it so well.
So let's take a look. This is the last clip. We'll take a look at kind of a similar thought behind it as well.
So here's what you got. So on the start of this play, the play is not all the way from the beginning, and I could not get it from the beginning. But what you get is McCaffrey actually starts in the backfield, and he's going to work his way out with motion to an empty set. Now, once again, as he get out there to the empty set, he's a decoy. So obviously, him being a primary receiver, everybody again with motion, eye candy goes over here to the left to McCaffrey. He's actually going to just cell screen. And all this is just a quick screen to Samuel. And they run this out of a bunch of different sets. But again, he does it differently. He's going to run it out of empty, and he's going to, give you a little bit of eye candy with McCaffrey motioning over to the right pre-snap. So again, just a little attention to detail from Shanahan is so impressive in everything they do offensively.
And again, none of this is, these are all adjustments that the Browns, in theory, could make during the bye week to kind of put some dressing on the plays they like.
Yeah, so you take the counter, they love to run. The boot, they love to run. Maybe in the flat where they throw it to a full, they throw it to a tight end. Maybe you get a guy like Moore in space. Maybe you can take some of these quick routes and make sure you get Cooper his touches so it gets him rolling. Obviously, it doesn't have to be necessarily, with some of the injuries the Browns have, like Njoku is a primary target for the Browns. Well, how do they window dress and get him the ball? Well, they like to run that boot and waggle with him. So how do they do that differently with motion, with shifts, with different formations to make sure that he gets his touches if he's going to be a primary guy? Same with Moore. How do you get these guys in space like the 49ers do with Samuel and McCaffrey and Kittle? It's the same thing the Browns can do. Browns can do this with Cooper. They can do it with Moore. They can do it with Njoku. How do they get these guys in their scheme? So it's not necessarily the exact play of the 49ers, but it's the concept of how do I get my guys touches in space so they can make plays for their offense.
Lance Reisland, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Lance.
As always, thanks for having me.
Lance Reisland, make sure you check him out. Always good video analysis, film breakdown, cleveland.com, as well as the Plain Dealer. We're going to step aside, take another timeout. Other side of the break, we continue talking Browns. Sports for CLE. I'll be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Yeah, Dave, this is Mike in West Virginia. Last year, if we had the defense that we have this year with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback, we win a lot of games and make the playoffs. The guy in 11 games threw 12 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. We averaged 24 points a game while he was a quarterback. With Deshaun Watson in 9 games, we've averaged 19 points and a lot of turnovers. The big, powerful quarterback is what we need. Deshaun Watson has got all that money and nothing has went right. His shoulder may be legitimately bad, but everything else has went wrong. I know it's early in the season. It looks like we're going to have to cut bait, let DTR get groomed under somebody like a Jacoby Brissett. Who knows? It could be a Kurt Warner story. If it's not, you draft a big quarterback, a big 6'5", 240-pound powerful quarterback that's smart out of a small college and develop that guy. That's AFC North football. Take care, Dave. Love the show. God bless.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Let's welcome in Randy Gurzi from Dog Pound Daily. Randy, to his point, Jacoby Brissett was just fine. He was pretty good, actually. And yeah, if the defense would play like it was, he played well enough to win. I'm not ready to go there with Deshaun Watson just yet. I think they're trying to fundamentally change what they do offensively. I hope they're trying to fundamentally change what they're doing offensively, and it takes some time.
It does, and I mean, I do understand the frustration, though, because, if we're being honest, they really punted on the season in 2022. They didn't really expect to get anywhere. You had Jacoby Brissett in there for 11 games, and then you turn it over to Deshaun Watson. We're kind of preparing for this year, so we just kept hearing about, last year was just getting the rust off, working out the kinks and everything, and then you come out this year, and it doesn't look a whole lot different than it did for those 6 games. So I understand where the frustration's coming from. But if it was that easy to get a quarterback, everybody would do it. So it's been a struggle, and right now this is the guy that they're kind of married to. So they're going to try to get it figured out.
Yeah, and again, look at the other guys that went out and tried to get quarterback. The Broncos, Russell Wilson, that is not working out. Trey Lance, can you imagine what the 49ers would be dealing with if they hadn't picked Brock Purdy in the 7th round and they were trying to play with Trey Lance? So that's the life of trying to find an NFL quarterback that's elite.
Yeah, and I mean, if they didn't stumble into Brock Purdy, you may be talking about Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch looking for new jobs. But since they got their quarterback, they kind of fell into him. They got extensions recently, but yeah, that makes it easy for them people to forget that they did completely whiff on Trey Lance, and a lot of us did. I thought Trey Lance was going to do very well under Kyle Shanahan. So, we see it happen a lot where you think a quarterback's going to do great, and then it just doesn't end up working out. So, the Browns are still hopeful with Watson, and unfortunately, all we can keep doing is keep waiting and seeing.
So the trade deadline coming up in a couple of weeks. This is an article that you wrote, trade targets for the Browns. We're going to run through 3 of them. Antonio Gibson, running back from the Washington Commanders, kind of has fallen out of favor a little bit because of Brian Robinson there. Mike Gesicki, tight end, pass-catching tight end from the New England Patriots, and a name that we keep hearing a lot about, Garrett Bowles, offensive tackle for the Broncos. Broncos 1-5 now after losing last night to the Kansas City Chiefs. When you look at those, who is the most intriguing for you?
I think the most intriguing's got to be Bowles. I just also think it would be the hardest one to pull off. I think it would cost a lot to get him. The Browns don't have a whole lot of draft capital, and then you're already committed to I believe it's around $15 million or so to Jedrick Wills next year with picking up his 5th-year option. So I think if Garrett Bowles would actually fix the most, it would really help that offensive line. They haven't done good enough job in pass protection, and that's where Garrett Bowles really thrives. So I think he would be he would bring the most impact and fix the most. But it would be really hard. Brian Robinson, I like a lot too. Antonio Gibson, I like a lot. I don't understand why they don't use him as much. He's always been a little more effective than Brian Robinson. He's really good at, catching the ball in the backfield, was a former receiver at Memphis. So he's a guy that I like a lot. And, if they continue to struggle to move the ball on the ground, I think that's somebody that you could look at.
Yeah, and again, you'd have to find something to do with Jedrick Wills in that contract, likely, if you go out and you get a Garrett Bowles. So that's another thing that makes it a little bit of a challenge. Steve Wilks, the defensive coordinator for the 49ers, talked about what he has seen from the Browns as he studies their offense.
To be quite honest, guys, they're very capable of still having a very functional offense, and that's the one thing I've been telling the guys about. This run game is phenomenal, and I know Chubb is out, but Ford and as well as Kareem can really tote the ball, and I think they do an excellent job up front. At the offensive line, creating and holes and coming off the ball. So at the receiving core, you look at Cooper, who I've had a lot of respect and admired over the years. He's still playing at a high level. Elijah Moore, they move him around all over the place in the backfield, in the slot. And then, of course, Goodwin can take the top off at any time. So good football team that we're going to face.
And Randy, I haven't seen it with the running game so far, outside of when Nick Chubb was back there.
Yeah, they're still one of the top running teams in the NFL, but that's really because of what Chubb did in that first game and, a game and a half or so. Jerome Ford, if you take out that 69-yard run he had against Pittsburgh, he's averaging under 3 yards per carry. So the run game need something. They kind of need a shot in the arm. And I think, it's interesting to see the Browns going up against Steve Wilks this weekend. Wilks is not going to overlook P.J. Walker since he was the coach who started Walker last year in Carolina. So, I know he didn't really mention him there, but he understands what the quarterback can do. He knows about the receivers, and I think he's going to really try to force the Browns to run the ball, and they're going to have to prove they can do it.
So let's take a look. 4 bold predictions for the Browns against the 49ers. This is from an article you wrote for Dawg Pound Daily. Number 4, Elijah Moore scores his first touchdown with the Browns. Number 3, Denzel Ward shuts down Brandon Ayuk. Number 2, Myles Garrett outshines Nick Bosa. And number 1, P.J. Walker, who will get started quarterback, throws for 250 with no interceptions. And I think that's the key right there, Randy, is he can't turn the ball over. That's been something, I've said it earlier in the show, I said it the last couple of days. He's had a problem with turning the ball, throwing interceptions. Walker has in his starts.
He has. He's got 11 interceptions in his career and only 5 touchdowns. But I think he understands, what's at stake here. I think he understands the defense he's going against, and he's going to know that, hey, they need to take what's there, not try to force too much. I think that's been a problem. That was a problem with Dorian Thompson-Robinson last week, is it felt like he was really trying to force it rather than just taking what the defense was giving. And I think that we're going to see P.J. Walker taking a little more of the dump-offs, trying to just take those 4 or 5 yard passes. And I think after a while, it'll start to add up. Elijah Moore, I really kind of liked what I was hearing about how they're talking about going away from using them in the reverses and in the backfield. That was an experiment. It had me a little bit excited, but it really didn't work out. So I think trying to let him kind of get back to his natural position and let the ball come to him more naturally will end up helping him as well.
Yeah, and Moore's a guy that he's among the league leaders in separation and cushion and below average in receiving yards. So that there's a mismatch there. And to your point, take the little 4 or 5 yard dump offs and see if you can break a tackle or two.
Yeah, and that's what I was hoping they would do. But it seems like kind of what they've done is a lot of the screen passes, the quick passes where he's only a yard from the line of scrimmage. They've done the reverses and things like that, and it's just not working. He's a lot better when he can get out there, create that separation, and then try to make a cornerback miss, make a safety miss, rather than when you're trying to bring him in reverse. And now he's going up against linebackers, which we saw that happen, and he ran the wrong way for 20 yards last week. So I think getting him back into the slot, trying to put him on the boundary a little bit more, I think that will end up helping him to kind of use his talent better.
So Myles Garrett talked about facing the 49ers and all that motion that they show pre-snap.
They'll move around a lot, but they still all got to get set by the time they snap the ball. So as long as we know who's where, I think we'll be all right. At the end of the day, as much as they're attacking in their offense, we're attacking in our defense. So we're going to play it to our best of our ability, and we know what we can do. We know what our matchups look like, and we're going to roll with that because we're happy about it. We know what we got on our end. They say to be the best, you got to beat the best. So no matter what your lines are looking like, what the depth chart looking like, you can't account for that. Not like they can account for that. You just have to go out there with who you got and play ball. Any given Sunday, anything can happen. So we're going to go out there, head tail high, full of confidence, ready to rock.
And Randy, the good news when you think about that is the Ravens did a lot of that motion and the Browns didn't handle it. So you've got some things that you can see to go and correct.
Yeah, and I going into this game, I'm not concerned too much about the defense. Jim Schwartz, I believe it was 1-8, something like that is his record when he goes up against Kyle Shanahan. So I don't think that the defense is going to be a problem. I think they're going to be prepared for whatever the 49ers throw at them. Myles Garrett's right. They got to eventually get set, and he's even gone in motion. He was doing that against Tennessee. So, I think that the defense is going to go out there and they're going to hold their own. The key is going to be the offense not turning the ball over, not having a lot of 3 and outs, because I think that's kind of what happened in that Baltimore game. I think the defense was doing their part, trying to keep the game close, and then they were on the, getting thrown back out on the field too much, put in bad situations. So I know they lost, 28-3, but I don't feel like that was, the defense getting beat up so much as it was. They just kind of got worn down. So I'm not too worried about the defense as long as the offense doesn't put them in too many bad situations.
And the other thing, they can't fall behind early. And that's kind of been the MO for the 49ers. The 49ers have trailed for 7 plays all season.
Yeah, they and I mean that last game when they just went against Dallas, it got ugly in a hurry. And what's crazy is they beat them 42-10. And if you watch that game, it was actually more of a blowout than that. They left several points on the board, so had a turnover in their own red zone there. So they're a very, very dangerous team. You can't give them anything. They're going to get theirs, but you just can't make it easier on them.
Randy Gurzi, Dawg Pound-Daly, as always. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Randy.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
Randy Gurzi, make sure you check him out. Always really good stuff with Dawg Pound-Daly. It's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We'll see you back here Monday at 4 o'clock. We'll rehash that Browns-49ers game from Sunday. Have a great weekend, everybody. See you Monday at 4 on Sports for CLE.